So Jayson Tatum had himself a season for the Celtics. I had a few vids centered around the guy because it was one of the more interesting conversations, at least amongst young players in the NBA this year, because of course Tatum looked pretty damn good after his rookie season. Being willing to flow within the Celtics offense and do more when asked of him, especially when Kyrie went out and all that. And, well, we know that the Celtics had a million things go on this season. So, how much has Jayson Tatum's stock fallen? Is his decision-making, lack of playmaking, too many mid-range jumpers, wanting to be Kobe Bryant, over-dribbling, all that stuff, compared to his talent, and how much of it was that the Celtics just had too many guys who wanted to shoot, and all that stuff. So it's definitely a combination of all those things. I mean, for one, if Gordon Hayward wasn't a disaster for a chunk of the season, overall, Hayward's numbers ended up being 11 points a game, 3.5 assists on some not bad efficiency. But he was bad for at least 2 months this year. Terry Rozier was awful. His efficiency sucked. He over-dribbled like hell. And, you know, he had the mentality of a guy who just should be shooting a lot, and he played 23 minutes a game, and you think, okay, if Hayward is better, then the defense would respect him more, and Tatum would get more open shots, and Rozier just doesn't happen, then those are more possessions to Jayson Tatum, right? Tatum, yeah, he shot 13 times a game this year, but there were a lot of stretches where he wouldn't have the ball, and then he would just kind of get the ball finally, and he would try to create out of nothing. Now, that is not an excuse for the fact that the shot that he would then try to get would be those bad mid-rangers or something like that, but if you can cut him a little bit of slack, just know that there were definitely times when someone who was worse than Tatum was doing something on offense, right? Another interesting one is Marcus Morris. Now, Morris was actually good for most of the year. I mean, Rozier was awful. Hayward got better as it went. Morris's efficiency overall was good, but he also did take 11 shots a game. Some of them were mid-rangers with a guy in his face and stuff like that. And it's an interesting thing of like, well, the dude was actually good, but was he still a detriment to the team because, of course, Tatum is more talented than Morris, and Tatum is in this team's future plans, whereas Morris is just a guy who happens to be here right now. So, is there a chance that if Morris and Rozier are just gone next season, of course we're going to have to see what happens with Kyrie, but if those two are gone, then Tatum could just have more possessions to do stuff besides just sit around and eventually get the ball, and you hope that that can mean more good things. But I guess the conversation for Morris is, of course, he was actually good for the Celtics this season. It's kind of a weird thing there. But even so, Tatum's expectations in terms of how much he was going to get the ball with Kyrie and Hayward coming back were unrealistic. So there's that. On the flip side of things, looking at Tatum's talent, even with all of these things, the guy averaged 16 points a game on basically 55% true shooting, which is, I mean, it's meh based on how talented he is, but I think it also just shows how good the guy can be. I mean, if you catch Tatum on any random night and you see the way that he just kind of glides through the defense off of 1 or 2 dribbles or a spin move or something, I just feel like it's really difficult to see those things and then be like, yeah, this guy's just a 15-point scorer. But of course, there's a difference between talent and your actual effectiveness. So then it gets back into the idea of Tatum just tries to be cute too much. He tries to hit guys with dribbles, and I mean, it's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between, okay, I'm going to take this guy off the bounce and I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to go to the rim, and I want to shoot some Kobe Bryant mid-range jumper that not many guys should actually be taking. I mean, Tatum attempted 195 long twos this season. He shot 37%. He attempted 156 shots from 10 to 16 feet, and he shot 42%. Not good enough, to put it bluntly. And you would hope, again, some more possessions can go his way to where he can be in pick and rolls and he can just get going downhill towards the rim. But even so, he has to want to do that. And I think there is a fear right now with Tatum that he doesn't really want to just go to the basket. I mean, when you watch the Celtics day in and day out this year, which I painfully did, you could tell there were times when Tatum was like, okay, tonight I'm going to go to the rim, which suggests that there's people within the Celtics, coaching staff, players, whatever, telling him again and again to go to the basket. I mean, this is a quote during his rookie season where, according to Horford, Brad Stevens said, we want Jayson to shoot threes. We want to save those difficult mid-range attempts for end-of-the-shot clock type shots. And that was his rookie season. So he did it more this year, the more mid-rangers and all that. So you know that they were telling him this stuff on a regular basis. And it would get in his head for a game or two, and then he would go back to what he does. What he unfortunately will do is all those 15-footers and everything. So that's just got to be a constant thing, and there's a chance that Tatum never really figures it out. I mean, even if you cater the offense to him, and I mean, I think there's a chance this could happen if Kyrie leaves, that Tatum becomes the number one option, even with Hayward bouncing back, we assume. So then you think, all right, Tatum's got the ball more, space it out around him, let him do his thing a little bit more often. Which to me means he's not going to have so many desperate possessions where he hasn't touched the ball in a few minutes or whatever. Even with all of that, he still just may hoist up too many mid-rangers. Now that doesn't say you still can't be an efficient offensive player. I mean, DeRozan's made it work for the most part, but we also see just how much better DeRozan could be if he could make threes, and Tatum can actually make threes right now. I mean, he shot, for his career, he's averaging 40% from three on 3.5 attempts a game. He's shooting 84% from the free throw line. And when you look at him on pull-up threes and all that, it looks pretty fluid. So the guy can make threes in the NBA. Now his three-point percentages in the playoffs have dipped down a little bit, so he's certainly not perfect, but I think the sample size of what? Basically 160 games shows us, yeah, dude can shoot from outside. So I really don't know what else to say. I mean, it's frustrating to basically just be like, hey, can you stop taking mid-rangers? But that's pretty much all it is, besides other things like get Rozier out of there and stuff like that. If we talk about Jayson's other stuff, the playmaking, the rebounding, the defense, I think he's a good defender now, and I think he's going to be a good defender pretty much his whole career. He's got potential to be an above-average rebounder for the wing position. I think he can get to 7 to 8 rebounds a game. The playmaking is a little frightening because he gets tunnel vision sometimes. And if I can use the comparison of DeRozan again, I mean, how long did it take for DeRozan to finally figure it out as a passer? It was like last season. Or I should say his last year with the Raptors, and that was at 28 years old. I hope it doesn't take Tatum that long, but it kind of could. We're going to have to see just how it is moving forward. So I think where I end up on all this is some of this was definitely the Celtics just had too many guys, and somebody had to get less shots and less possessions than they really deserved. But at the same time, Tatum didn't handle that very well because when he finally did get the ball, he'd hoist up some bad shots. But I think we should be encouraged by the fact that even with those inefficient shots, Tatum's efficiency for the season was still like not really that bad. And he certainly shows the talent to shoot a lot of free throws and make threes and all that. So, and not just make threes, but take more threes as well. So it's going to take some adjustments from everybody involved, but I would say I'm still pretty positive on Tatum moving forward. I'd say the potential to be a 20-plus point scorer is definitely there for him, and it's just a matter of seeing how it all turns out. And we have to remember the Celtics team could look a lot different next season, so that's always going to affect things in some way. We just don't really know what yet.